The NFL draft is now just 8 days away, so we are here tonight to come with the JetNation Mock Draft 2.0. Myself and Dylan Terman, as we said with 1.0, we don't do a million mocks a year. We do 2, sometimes 3. Maybe there'll be a third the day before the draft. We wanted to get another one in because of the fact that we did the last one before the picks were updated. And, we were going with the wrong pick that the Jets traded to Detroit, and everybody had that wrong. So really, we should have done one, or we could have done one earlier, but we thought we'd wait, do one a week or so out, and maybe another one a day or two before the draft. Tonight is going to be a joint venture, which we don't normally do. So if we do another one, it'll be my mock and Dylan's mock separately. Tonight, for this show, for this episode, a joint mock draft. Bear with us. We're going to use the NFL mock draft database, which I know is pretty popular with folks, but I use it very rarely, and Dylan says he's not that familiar with it. So we may have a couple of hiccups along the way, but that's what we will use, and we hope you enjoy it. Dylan Terman, how we doing? Long time no see.
Yeah, man, I'm doing well. It's been since they signed a quarterback in free agency, since I feel like we've talked and chopped it up. So glad to be back. New background. I feel like that's a theme on this pod is our rotating backgrounds between me, you, and Chris. You never know where we're at, but hopefully this is the background for the foreseeable future. And yeah, let's get into this mock. I threw out the option of doing the joint one, and I'm glad that you took it so we can maybe debate a little bit, maybe actually agree a little bit on some picks. And I'm excited to see how this all turns out.
All right, so the Jets picking now. Are we going to consider trades? If so, I'd say we should limit it to 1 or 2. But what do you think?
Yeah.
We hadn't talked about that.
I think if we do both agree on a trade like scenario, because I think I'm always in favor of trading back, but I think if we say, hey, who is that team then trading up for, and we can agree that makes sense, then I'm with it. But if we're just like, okay, Jets are trading back to 17 all willy-nilly, and they're just going to take any random player at 7, whoever comes up, then I think that it's less realistic. So if we agree on who they're coming up for or a generality of what position they're coming up for, yeah, I think it's worth 1, maybe 2 trades.
And before we kick off the mock, Dylan, I'm glad you mentioned that because it's been, speculated by several people. And I understand where they're coming from. The New Orleans Saints picking 2 spots behind the Jets now without a quarterback, which is crazy. They gave Derek Carr all that money. They agreed to let him stay for however many tens of millions. And then a couple weeks later, it turns out he's got a shoulder injury that could cost him next season. The Saints now possibly in the market for a quarterback. Are they, if let's say hypothetically, if a quarterback falls, it's going to be Shedeur. Do the Saints really believe the Jets are going to take him? I don't. I think the Jets genuinely want to build around Justin Fields. And let's see who's picking at 8. I forget now.
The Panthers.
Okay, the Panthers aren't taking a quarterback. So the Saints probably, unless they feel another team is going to jump them, won't feel compelled to move up to 7. But if they feel strongly enough that a team like the Steelers might be looking to jump up to 8 or 7, they may want to. So it's not a completely harebrained scenario. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think if somebody were to trade up, it would probably be the last scenario you proposed where somebody's trying to jump the Saints, assuming that they would take a falling Shedeur Sanders and maybe jump up with the Jets at 7. I think the Panthers might stick and pick, but they're also a trade-out possibility. But I don't see the Saints, specifically jumping ahead of the Panthers to draft Shedeur Sanders. Now, they might do it to draft somebody the Panthers really love because they're interdivision. But I don't, I would say like maybe the Steelers, like you mentioned, coming up from 21 to 7 just to get ahead of another quarterback needy team because the whole Derek Carr thing is interesting. Obviously, the Steelers are waiting on Aaron Rodgers. We still don't know the conclusion of that yet. So, I would say it's more the Saints getting jumped than trying to come up with the Jets specifically.
All right, let's go ahead and get this. And we got to say real quick, because I've seen other shows do this. And like when the draft starts off completely wacky,
we will restart it.
They don't start over. They're like, well, that's what it is. And I'm like, listen, we don't know what's going to happen, but I'm not doing a thing where Cam Ward falls to 7. Like that's a waste of everybody's time.
Yep. 0% chance. I'll say 0.01% chance he lasts to pick 7. So
if something insane happens, if one of those top 3 names there falls to 7, then hit the refresh button.
We will definitely restart. So, all right, let's kick this off. I assume it's going to be pretty chalk. I hopefully can scroll back and see how those picks go. Do you want to entertain these, or we'll create our trades as we go?
No, that's a
It's a
bunch of
trade
picks
up, I
next year.
understand, but there's 4 of them. So do you want to just reject them all?
Reject that one.
All right. Back to 7, a second rounder and a 4th rounder, but both next year.
And
So
see,
you're
I
not
don't
getting
see a
anything in
counter
this
option.
draft. What's
I
that?
would counter that. I would counter that if it was a different side. I didn't realize you can't counter offer.
Yeah, that's a kind of weird function that you can't counter, because I would
Yeah,
take it if it was
especially
a
if
this year's second.
yeah, or even a 3 this year. Because if they're willing to
Right.
go up a 2 next year, I'd imagine they give you a 3 this year. But yeah, I'd reject that. No, we're not moving back to 85.
Even for one first rounder, that's silly.
That's ridiculous.
See, this is realistic in
Okay.
terms of, yeah, you can go back 10 spots. It's funny, I said 17 at the top of the show. 49 you get this year, so another pick in the top 50, and then another pick inside the top 120. All picks this year. I don't know what the value is on this, but I assume it would be because I think after pick 18, the value aligns where you would assume a second rounder or a third plus is coming back to the Jets. So, like, it's not a scenario where you're trading back 4 spots and picking up a second round pick. We're not in that territory. But 17, yeah, you could potentially get a second plus. So I do think this is interesting. I wish we could look at the board and see who I can see. Like, oh, it looks like a dual Carter's on the board, so we might have to restart this anyway.
Yeah.
Let's reject this and restart because I saw
Yeah,
dual
start it
Carter.
over because that's just silliness.
So how did the picks go? Am I allowed to? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Will Johnson to the Giants. Okay, that
Yeah,
sounds.
that was the hiccup.
Yeah. All right. Restart. All right. Oh, Shadur. Uh-oh. Mock draft database. Shadur goes number 1.
Oh
And
my
Will Johnson
God.
again goes number 3.
And Cam Ward is still on the board.
Yeah, literally what we said would never happen.
All right, let's try one more time. And if it doesn't work, flip over to PFN or somebody with a
Sure.
brain.
Not a problem. Bear with us, chat. This is the struggle, though. I mean, obviously we could, keep a unseen scenario that would make sense, but these just don't make any sense to.
No.
There's no integrity in the draft if we went with that.
Yeah, it's just,
All right, Jesus. Okay, so they clearly think completely differently than the consensus.
Cam Ward and Abdul Carter still on the board this time.
Yeah, this is silly, actually. The Giants have taken Will Johnson 3 times in a row. All right, so what we'll do is we'll remove this.
PFN or
Yeah, let's go PFN.
You're an embarrassment, NFL draft database. What are you doing here? Cam Ward falling to 7. Have you watched any of Marshall's J.J. Roberts yet?
I saw your tweet about it. No, I assume he's probably just a day 3 guy that can plug in safety that you've been falling in love with.
His his pro day stuff was ridiculous.
Okay.
I was looking at Marshall's website. He or a Marshall newspaper, the write up on his pro day. He would have finished in the top 5 at the combine in like 4 or 5 categories.
Wow.
Broad jump was like 10.6. Even his bench reps were like 20, which I think would have been first. But all the athletic stuff off the chart. Only thing is, it looks like he's got hands like feet. Like he doesn't intercept the ball, but he had 14 PBUs last season. Comes downhill really hard and run support. Does a good job on the back end. I think he's a converted corner.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's some decent safeties in this class, but looking for a guy you can get later, I was watching him and I was like, the athletic profile is great. The production's really good. And I thought he looked solid on film. So
I think Ray Mickens has been the popular day 3 mock draft pick. Yeah. But, it's hard to see him lasting that long. So we need to talk about more, I guess not realistic names, but other names at the safety position that could be actually taken on day 3, because I think Mickens could be like a 4th round pick. I don't think, and it's like, it's so funny. You see all the mock draft simulators and everybody posts for their respective teams, and they all have the same guys in the third, fourth, fifth round. Like how many guys can draft Kyle Williams in the fourth round? Only one, and who
Right.
might even go in the third. So it's just really funny how RJ Mickens has become a very popular pick. All right, we got PFN up now. This looks way more realistic. I didn't realize as soon as I clicked into it that it was going to start right away. So Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Will Campbell, Tyler Warren, a surprise at 5, and then Will Johnson, the corner, at 6. So 2 kind of surprises with Warren and Johnson, but the first 4 to me seem really chalk, and that's what I would have done in my mock by myself. So I think that's a good
some
starting
trade offers.
It's a good starting point. Yeah, I closed down the trade offers so we could look at them together. Let's see. I don't want to move back to 31, but they're offering so much.
I mean, this isn't going to happen. Like,
No.
we got to keep it somewhat. The Chiefs aren't giving up 5 picks. It's just not
for
happening.
Mason Graham.
Yeah, just
all right. Reject. Atlanta. This was a rumored team to come up. I know it was like Kyle Pitts and a future one and a pick swap or something was the rumor.
Yeah.
I didn't really believe it, but I mean,
coming back. I think that was rumored by like a blogger. That's like you or me throwing a rumor out there.
Yeah, and I think it was a Falcon fan blogger, so it was like somebody with a little bit of a bias. So I mean, 2 picks in the top 50 and then a 5th next year is enticing. I assume they'd be coming up for Mason Graham because they have a quarterback situation already figured out. So maybe we could just leave that one to sit for now.
Yeah, that's the last one.
Oh, it is. Oh, okay, good. So
I'd counter it and see if you can get another 7 out of them.
A 7th rounder?
Sweeten the pot with even if it's the last pick, 242.
Sure.
And see what they say to that.
Traders accepted. Okay. Yep. And they come up for Mason Graham, which makes sense. Membu, Genti, Shamar Stewart, 11. Oh, Pittsburgh trades up. I didn't know computer could trade amongst each other. So Pittsburgh traded up to 13 here to take Shadur Sanders, which
I've never seen it do that before, or at least you know what it is. I put it on fast, and I don't even really look at.
Oh, you didn't even know? Yeah, you wouldn't even notice.
I might look at a couple names, like if there's a guy that I want and he's sitting there, and then he's gone when it gets to me. Sometimes I'll look back to see who got him.
And this makes a lot of sense. I mean, Membu to the Panthers, Genti to the Saints. The Bears still need O-line, a linebacker for San Fran. Shamar Stewart is a bit of a surprise to the Cowboys. We talked literally about the Steelers, coming up for Sanders, and then the Colts take the 2nd tight end off the board.
All makes sense.
So we're not trading back again. Obviously, I think that'd be popular, but we're not going to do that. Tet McMillan and Matthew Golden is probably our first talking point and probably our first debate because I think I know where you lean, and I think I lean the opposite way. So of the 2, who would you pick?
Well, it's, obviously I'd go with Tet. I've been talking about him for a year now. Although I will say I've moved off of him. I haven't, but I've come to grips with the fact that I don't expect the Jets to take him. Sure. Even though the reason I think he makes the most sense is because, and I brought this up a couple weeks ago on a show that I did. If you go back and watch the video, and I posted it to YouTube, Justin Fields, if you look it up, go to YouTube, look up Justin Fields every throw 2024. And look, there was some good stuff in there. There was some not so great stuff. There were, some bad throws, but there were some deep balls that he connected on. His deep ball percentage wasn't the greatest, but he did. And it's kind of, I was noticing as I was watching it, but I didn't really comment on it at the end. He relied really, really, and I get they didn't have a ton of receivers, but he threw the ball an awful lot to George Pickens. And Pickens, of course, insane catch radius, some of the best hands in the NFL, pulled in a few of those Justin Fields deep balls that I would argue 9 out of 10 receivers are not going to get to. But you know what? Tet McMillan is one of the guys who's going to get to it. So if I'm trying to add weapons for Justin Fields, the reason now listen, if I didn't have the accuracy concerns, then I could totally get on board with Matthew Golden here. But to me, the key factor is the McMillan hands, height, and wingspan. Basically the catch radius, everything that comes together to give you your catch radius. I think, and I've said from last year that I've said he's the second he's drafted, he's going to have one of the best catch radius in the NFL. I think that would be the most beneficial thing you could do for Justin Fields as he tries to get his career on track. Again, he did some good things last year, but we still saw, even with some of his bigger plays, they required some, not really off the charts effort, but not easy catches that I think most guys wouldn't make, and I think Tet Millen makes those catches.
Yeah, that's certainly fair. I mean, anytime you saw George Pickens making a play for the Steelers, it's all body control, body contortion, and just catch radius outside his frame on the sidelines. And I think that's definitely something that the Jets could utilize for sure. What did you say was your issue with Golden? What kind of issue was it? I didn't. You were like,
No, I don't. I don't have
out.
an issue with him.
Oh, there's no issue with Golden. Okay, yeah,
No. I like I said, I would be happy with Golden. But I would be more likely to take him if maybe you thought I was talking about Golden. I said if I didn't have the accuracy concerns with Fields,
I
I'd
got
be
you.
fine
I
with
got you.
Golden.
Yeah.
But yes, Golden himself, I have no issues with that. And if the Jets took him here over McMillan, I would completely understand what they're thinking, and I wouldn't have an issue with that.
Yeah, and I think the cool part about Matthew Golden to me, and like maybe part of the reason why I lean more towards these types of players, and we've known this about each other. You do like the taller, contested catch, deeper threat receivers. I'm more of like the slot, shifty route runner types, and that's what I think Matthew Golden is. And I compared him yesterday on Jake Asman's show to another Garrett Wilson. So like once you start getting the experts comping him to Garrett Wilson, that's just bonus points in my opinion. We've like been starved of talent for years coming out of the draft, and now we actually have draft prospects being comped to our guys. So I think it's really a good thing to have, and a reason why you would keep a guy like Garrett Wilson. But then if you could add another Garrett Wilson to the fold, I'm totally on board with it. I'm also a big Emeka Egbuka fan, so I definitely would lean towards Matthew Golden more than Tet McMillan for those reasons also. But I definitely, and I don't know if you agree, but I don't see 4.29 on tape. I understand that's what the measure or the clock said that he ran in Indianapolis, and I'm not here to be a conspiracy theorist about it. Whatever, the clock is what the clock is, but I don't see him consistently running away from people at Texas. And there were opportunities where I thought he could have, where the defender slipped and he caught it and he could have ran away, but then he was caught. So I don't think many defenders were running 4.29 against him. So I don't know if you saw 4.29 on tape. I see speed, but I would say his route running more is impressive than just his overall raw speed.
Yeah, he's one of those guys. I mean, obviously, we're not saying he's slow, but
Right.
you just when you see those types of numbers, you expect him to just have a handful of plays where he runs away from everybody.
Mhm.
And it reminds me, it's many years ago, but when the Jets drafted Lavernius Coles out of Florida State a million years ago, granted it was like a team timed 40, but there were like rumors around that he beat Deion Sanders, 40 time for the fastest in Florida State history. And then as a pro, he was a very good pro. I loved him as a pro,
Mhm.
but you never saw a single play where you're like, this guy is even in Deion's class, in Deion's world. So you hear these 40s, and again, the 40 time at the combine, obviously more credible than a reported team time.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't think he plays to that speed, but I think he plays well enough, fast enough that again you could justify that pick in this spot. But I think I would go with McMillan here, even though I was knowing whether or not we would trade down. I was fully expecting myself not to say McMillan with the Jets' first pick because I'm trying to do what I think they would do.
Mhm.
But if they move down to 16 or 15, wherever we are, I think it becomes more likely in this spot, and I would go with him at 15. At 7, I wouldn't expect them to, but I think it's more likely here.
Yeah, I think you can justify it more now that we've accumulated another top 50 pick, an extra day 3 asset to use as well. Is there another name in the fold at a different position? I see Mike Green, Derek Harmon, Malachi Starks, Michael Williams, Nicky Manwari, Tyler Booker, other names like that. That would you even consider those, or do you think it does come down to these two at the 15th pick?
Aaron Glenn being a defensive guy and the Jets having a need at safety, Nick Emenwari is a guy I said a few weeks ago, just we don't want under the first round safety.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you what, man, that guy is a machine. He is, as they say about players like him, built in a lab. Um, the big picture, the athleticism, the strength, the what you see on film, like he's one of one. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So if the Jets move down this far and they took Emenwari there, I would have no problem with that at all. Edge, listen, I've talked about Edge. We talked a little bit before we went live, Dylan. If you look at this Jets team right now, compared to where they were just 2 or 3 years ago, they're back to being a team that needs a lot of help at edge.
Mm-hmm.
You got Jermaine Johnson coming off a major injury. You have Will McDonald, who, depending on what scheme they run, might be a little bit undersized. But let's say best case scenario, and they run a scheme that suits him. Okay, fine. You've got Will
Mm-hmm.
McDonald. You don't know what you're getting from JJ. At best, as you said, mid-season at best till he's near 100%.
Yep.
Behind that there is no more. We got Bryce Huff. We got JFM. We just drafted Will McDonald. That's not the case anymore. You now have 1.5 guys. So being Aaron Glenn being a defensive guy, I wouldn't rule out an edge in this spot. Do you go Mike Green or Michael? I'd probably prefer Michael Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Although, watching Marshall earlier, I will say Mike Green was a lot better against the run than I recalled him being.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not as if he's a liability there. But those are I could see Edge being in play, and I could see Emenwari being in play, given his just what that guy is capable of. If again at 15.
Yeah, once we traded down to 15, I fully expected. I thought the Cowboys were going to stick and pick Golden, so I thought it would be like we'd be arguing Tet McMillan versus Shamar Stewart, but Shamar Stewart's not here. So I think if they went edge like Mike Green, hopefully that means that they're running a 4-3 because I believe he's not, the heaviest edge. Also, not so much like Will McDonald, but he's definitely not like as big as like a Michael Clemens. So maybe the Michael Williams route is a little bit better, but I do think that edge should be talked about. I know pre-free agency, I said on all the podcasts I've been on that I wouldn't be surprised by a double dip in the first 2 rounds. Go edge and then interior defensive line, or you get Mason Graham and then you go edge at pick 42. So I wouldn't be mad about it. I think there's needs on defense, and I understand offense scores points and is the sexy, attractive picks that get all the best ratings immediately after the draft. But if they're searching for building the best team possible, yeah, maybe an edge player is the best one here. So I'm cool with taking Tet, Golden, or Michael Williams here. I'll leave the pick up to you though.
Let me avoid a Glenn bias and let's go ahead and take Golden.
Okay, cool. I like that. So Golden off the board, the Jets, and I said this yesterday on Jake's show also. Obviously, we've traded down to 15, but pick 7, Glenn. There's only 2 people on this roster who were picked higher than that. So I understand everybody wants to say, "Oh, Tet McMillan's a perfect wide receiver too." But if you're drafting him at 7, you would hope that he'd be your wide receiver 1. Am I correct, or do you think that he should fall in? Maybe the talent doesn't necessarily say wide receiver 2 or 1, but you would be hoping at such a high pick that they could eventually be the first of their position group, right?
I mean, I think he's good enough to get to that point, I think he has the tools to be a wide receiver 1. But the thing is, today's league, like you got to have 2 guys. Like look at Cincinnati. Having 2 guys. Higgins could probably be a number 1 for some teams. He's just not a number 1 there because they have the best receiver in the NFL.
Right.
And kind of what we're hoping, Garrett Wilson, we're hoping his best football is ahead of him. If he's on the same page with Fields, which obviously given their history you would expect. So I just want good football players, and I want at 7 a day 1 impact guy, and even as your wide receiver 2, especially in the red zone with that guy's height and reach. I mean, he's going to be a threat in the red zone no matter where he goes. So I wouldn't get caught up in whether or not he's your wide receiver 1. I just want to know he's going to produce and help you score a bunch of points.
Yeah, that's completely fair. Another duo that is just like kind of 2 1s is Minnesota with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison is a wide receiver 1 on probably 20 teams currently in the NFL. So
yeah.
All right, Jets up at 42. Let's see what the last couple picks had for us. The Chiefs eventually made their trade. 2 trades. They came up. They're going all over the board. A lot of things are happening here. So Burden
Yeah, a lot of
doesn't
movement.
slip to the second round. That's been a popular kind of trend, is Luther Burden slipping to the second round. Emeka Egbuka, the same thing, but we already have wide receiver. Jackson Dart, probably third wide receiver there, or third quarterback, excuse me, to the Giants. Tyleik Williams, who would have been a good pick for the Jets, goes a couple picks early. Princely Emmanuel, who I'm kind of torn on, and then another edge. So do we continue the edge run, or do we look around the board somewhere else? I see Kenneth Grant is here. Without scrolling, him or Josh Connerly Jr. are run the card up to the podium types of picks for me.
Yep.
Josh Connerly Jr., the stamp of approval from our guy Dom C as Olu 2.0. And anytime you can say that about a prospect and get him at pick 42, I think that's really a great steal. Maybe he doesn't even make it here, but I think based on the way that the draft went above, that some things shook out differently. But yeah, between him or Kenneth Grant, who is not just a two-gapping fatty that people like to say he is. Like, he has
No,
pass
that dude,
rush
he can play,
penetration
man.
ability. Like, he's such a well-rounded player for a
Yep.
330 interior player that those are the two run the card ups for me. I'll scroll down and keep looking while you're going to see if there's anybody else. But I'm torn between Grant and Connerly right here. Obviously Mason Taylor now that I'm scrolling, but it's hard to say Mason Taylor over Connerly or Grant based on positional value, in my opinion.
Yeah. So Grant is great value here, and Connerly, I think Grant's the better player, but I would probably, if it's between those two, I would go Connerly because I don't know about a tackle later on.
Right.
Actually, if Ursery's still there and he's their 54th ranked player, he might be there with the next pick.
Right. We have 46, which is just a couple picks away. So we have the flexibility because we traded back. I did forget about that. So that is a great point to make. There's a chance we could get
But with
Connerly
DTs,
and
you could
Kenneth
get a good
Grant.
DT in
Yeah.
round 3, 4.
Yeah. I think there's a
So
chance
that
you can get Connerly and Grant. But I agree that I would probably value Grant higher, although I probably wouldn't risk the 4-pick drop to keep Connerly there at 46. So I would go Connerly and hope Grant makes it around, but I do love your pivot of just take Grant and then get Ursery at 46.
Yeah.
I think that should be the move because there's two offensive tackles we've identified and not two defensive tackles, although the value for defensive tackles certainly will show up in this draft, but
But
I'm cool
the
with
other name that's getting my attention here, two names actually,
okay.
JT Tuimoloau
Has to, yep.
and Landon Jackson, because we just talked about edge. Between edge, DT, OT, I feel like, again, I don't want to knock Kenneth Grant. I think he's the best of that group, but I think tackle and edge, those are guys you're not going to get that value in round 3. Whereas you can get Jamari Caldwell in round 3, and you've got a 340-pound tackle who can move like a 300-pound tackle.
Yeah, no, I agree with that strategy. So I think what we're saying is you go Connerly here, and then you see what edge is available at 46, and then we'll come back around on defensive tackle where the real value is.
Or go edge. Well, let's see who are the.
Or do you want to go edge and then wait on Ursery? Yeah,
let's go edge.
What's
here.
the difference between Connerly and Ursery to you? Because we could probably get either edge at either pick.
That's the thing. I feel like Connerly, and again, this is about not knowing what scheme they're going to run.
Sure.
Even though Ursery has the athleticism, his RAS was off the charts. I just feel like physically he's stronger than Connerly, but Connerly's the better mover. So it's like, are you going to run a lot of zone, a lot of wide stuff, a lot of outside? Then I would want Connerly. If it's going to be more power, I would want Ursery. But let's go with the guy they have rated higher, and let's go with Connerly here.
Okay.
I would imagine between Jackson and Tuimoloau, one of those guys will be there with the next pick.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Connerly was a left tackle at Oregon, so now you're talking about probably swapping him over, but I think
and same with Ursery, but
it would be the
young.
same thing with Ursery, exactly. So I mean, I would just take the guy who I personally rate higher and go with it from there. So let's see the picks that happened in between. Yep, perfect. Trey Amos, Azariah Thomas, and Wyatt Milam. who I believe we both like Wyatt Milam quite a bit.
That feels high for him. Well, unless they view him as a tackle.
Yeah, I would say he's probably more of like a top of the third round guy. But yeah, if you view him as a tackle, this is a great spot for him. But he's been training up as guard, I've heard. So I mean, there's always the chance that he could be either. But all right, so 46, obviously that leaves Landon Jackson and JT Tumalau. The only reason I would say JTT is because I feel like the longevity of how he's put his output at college has been a little bit better. I'm not going to use that bag video against Landon Jackson. Have you ever seen that video of him at a camp where he's doing the bag drill and he's slapping the bag? The video is to show another prospect, but Landon Jackson is the guy ahead of that prospect, and he does not know.
I have seen. Was that Landon
He does
Jackson?
not know hand power, dude, and he's learned. I'll give him the credit. He's definitely learned, and he's been cool about joking with the video. But he's slapping the bag like I would slap the bag, like hitting it like with his purse almost. So
I've seen that. I didn't know that was him. I've seen the video.
As soon as
I thought it was a joke.
As soon as I learned it was him,
I don't get it. Like, I get that he's doing it wrong, but it's not that funny. I thought it was meant to be like a comedy thing.
No, that was his legit hand technique and usage back then, and he's obviously learned. His tape has shown that he's learned, but when I learned that fact too, it was very hard to shake. So I'm cool with Tumalau because of the longevity also. But I'm cool with either. Landon Jackson is just a hulking edge type of player that I think would kick Michael Clemens off the roster. So I'm also cool with him.
I think I would go with Tuimoloau because I feel like he can do more. I feel like he's a little bit more versatile. And that's what, I think Aaron Glenn is going to want versatile guys who he can fill in a lot of roles. So I would go with Tuimoloau over Landon Jackson here.
Perfect. I'm in agreement.
I like both players, but
yeah, absolutely. It's
although I like Landon Jackson a little bit less now that I know it was him in that video.
Right. You can't shake it, dude. So, okay, let's see. Now we got a big gap, and I didn't realize the slow speed would be the big gap here, but we don't pick again till 73. And then the only other extra asset we have is day 3 on round 7. So we won't really see much consequence in the top 100, 125 in terms of that trade back. But I mean, for what we already have, hold on, we'll hide the trades. Matthew Golden, Josh Connerly, JT Tuimoloau. This is a hat tip to Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji, 100%.
Yeah, I would. Tuimoloau. I think I took him when I did a mock with Dom C a couple months ago. I took him at 32 for the Chiefs. I think he's got first round type talent.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting because there's a lot of players that if they slid to 33, I would be calling Cleveland to trade up for.
A lot of people are talking about Marcus Embo, that he seems to be climbing some draft boards. He's a guy that I really liked. I've talked to Dom a couple times, but over Twitter. Just it's just a guy I liked from last year. But looking at what's there, just without scrolling,
that's crazy. Darius Alexander.
Well, the thing is, it is crazy, but some of these tackles are going to fall. Like they're not all going to go, and that the number I keep throwing out there, right? Because it's not just me making stuff up. Like I've been saying for a while now, how deep this tackle class is. Daniel Jeremiah had 24 starters. He's got graded right now, and last year's class he had 12. Literally double the number. 24 starting tackle grades this year. You're going to get starting tackles in the 4th round. And here we are sitting here in the 3rd round, and whoever teams are going to be looking at tackles in the 3rd round and going, how is this guy still here? Well, he's still there because there's 24 of them. And there are other guys. There are probably some fringe guys. You probably have a few guys with that potential to start. So I wouldn't feel pressed to grab one now, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
This spot, where are we picking? We're in the 70s still. I want to look. I mean, I see Fan in there, who I like.
Yep.
He can block a little bit, not just catch the football, which I feel like they need. I feel like they'll want, because they're going to want to run the ball a lot this year. We already have a tackle.
Mm-hmm.
How big is Alexander? What are his measurements?
If
you click on his notes thing there, the profile.
6'3", 305. Oh, and that's good that they showed the RAS too. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a guy that Like I could see going 31 or 32, excuse me, to the Eagles or something like
Yeah,
that, and just they
yeah.
replenish their Milton Williams well with Darius Alexander.
What are you
Um,
thinking here?
I like Collins or Alexander. I feel like just the value of Alexander. Obviously Bo because I think he has the versatility. See, this is where you could justify taking Jalen Milroe to me. And the fact that he would be the fourth player we've taken gives me more ease about taking a quarterback. I
Right.
still think you wait till probably 110 or 109, whichever that fourth round pick is, to actually make a quarterback selection.
Yeah.
But if you have conviction on a guy, this is where I think it would start. Makuba, I like Makuba, but I don't have him ranked this high. We don't need a tackle because we took Connerly. So Trapio, although I like him, would be probably not in consideration. Omar Norman Law is still here. Shamar Turner is still here.
Now,
So although
Barrett Carter, not that I think they would take, just want to bring his name up because
okay, yeah, I'm
I
not
think
I'm
about it often.
unfamiliar. So
He's a guy, I want to say it was last offseason. At one point last year, I was watching it may have been like immediately after the draft, looking forward to this year. They were calling him like a top 10 defense. Like they thought he was going to be a top 10 pick or a
in the
first
way too
round
early
pick.
mocks and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, he
Yeah.
was getting so much love and he's a sideline to sideline guy, big time hitter. But I don't feel like a linebacker this early can be justified. And Lott to me is one of the most interesting players in this draft. He's almost useless against the run, but he is an absolute monster as a pass rusher. Best
Mm-hmm.
pass rush win rate in the country last year.
Wow.
And he only I mean, he's the type of guy you want a defense that gets off the field on third down. You want somebody like him at your DT spot, but he's a one-dimensional guy. I wouldn't not take him, but I think with the other tackles that are on the board, I would have a hard time taking him there. I like Ashton Gillott quite a bit as a
Yeah.
versatile piece out of Louis. He's another guy I've been watching for about 3
And
years now.
the Jets had a 30 visit with him. And I
Yeah,
specifically say 30 visit because they're not top 30 visits. They're just 30 visits.
yeah,
I think we need to get that out of the Jets probably don't have Ashton Gelati as a top 30 player on their board, although he was a 30
right.
visit member.
Yep. Yeah.
What are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
Go ahead.
I know we took Edge just before with Tumala, but what are your thoughts on Josiah Stewart? Because I feel like he's pretty all over the map in terms of evaluations.
Yeah, I think of all the edge rushers, I've probably seen the least of him.
Okay.
Yeah, I won't even speak on him. I have a list of players that I have to go back that I've watched so little of or haven't watched it of. Of course, Michigan, you've watched everybody because there's so many players. You're watching Michigan all the time.
Yeah, it's like
Um,
Georgia.
yeah, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State.
Yep.
As I've said in the past, I kind of avoid those guys until the final days. The lesser known guys because the primary guys are so big, you see them when you're not even trying. They're in
Mm-hmm.
your face because they're always they're always playing premium games, and you want to see how people play against them. If I'm
Yes.
evaluating someone, I'm like, oh, they played Ohio State, I'm going to watch that, but I might be focusing on the other team. So he's a guy that I've watched a little bit of, but not nearly enough. I think listen. I think the value of Darius Alexander is too good to pass up here. I
Yeah,
know
I
we
agree.
said we can wait at DT, and you can't. Again, I would probably take two in this class, but Darius Alexander would be one of them, so I would take him. And we can
Yeah,
say it's ridiculous value, but there are going to be some ridiculous value DTs this year.
100%. We're gonna look back and say, how did X defensive tackle last to round 3? And I think
Exactly.
even if it's not the exact name, Darius Alexander, even a guy like Alfred Collins to me
Yep.
is a steal at pick 73. So
Yep.
yeah, I'm definitely in agreement. So we got to take the value, and I will certainly be an advocate to double up at defensive tackle. What do they have? 2/5, 2/6, and now we added a 7th round pick. So of those 5 picks, I would expect to double up at probably tight end and defensive tackle if I was
Yep.
trying to be realistic. So Darius
Yeah.
Alexander off the board. We don't pick again till 110, and that's where I said the quarterback discussion would start. I wanted to ask you about Will Howard. That's kind of been my guide throughout the process. Did you happen to catch the Gruden camp with Will Howard?
I didn't. It's a funny thing. And I will watch it because I heard it was really good.
Yes.
Not just from you, but I saw a couple people tweeting about it. I like Will Howard. I liked him at K-State. I think that I think he's being undersold. I know Pat McAfee is his biggest fan. Pat McAfee is
Mhm.
like, why isn't this guy being talked about as a bigger prospect? I think he runs well, not elite, but he runs well enough. He has obviously proven he can step up and win a big game,
Mhm.
and several of them. So as a mid-round guy, I like him a lot. I'm team Brady Cook on day 3.
Okay.
If I'm taking a quarterback late, that's what I would prefer, especially looking at, like here at 110, we can look at the quarterbacks, but there will be other needs that you can fill before your QB2 who you're going to try to develop. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. I saw Will
I,
Howard's name come off the board as we were going. I don't remember who it was to, but I saw
there you go.
to the
103.
Titans. Okay. So they go
Oh, my
two.
guy Caldwell went too.
Yeah, yeah. So the Titans have 2 rookie quarterbacks in Cam Ward and Will Howard. Okay. Yeah, Jamari
Sure.
Caldwell, that's a problem next to
That
Myles
that
Garrett. That would have been
that hurts.
and I would have been cool even though we had just taken Alexander at 73. I would have doubled up at defensive tackle if
I've
he was
I've done
there.
that a few times with my mocks. I've gone
100%.
back to back defensive tackle.
I'm cool where they double up on defensive tackle as long as it's probably not first and second round, but like
Yeah.
second, fourth round, third and fourth round, third and fifth round, absolutely
Yep.
100% would do it, would consider it. So top name on the board is a position of need in Terrence Ferguson.
Yep.
I do think that if they don't go Warren or Loveland in round 1, which I think it's like kind of decreasing in likelihood, that they should wait till around here to attack tight
Yep.
end. I'm not a huge fan of going out to get the Elijah Arroyos and Mason Taylors of this draft class at 42 because as you see what we were able to get here, I would much rather see one of these guys fall than,
Yep.
reach on a Mason Taylor, in my opinion. So we could start the tight end conversation. Although I like Tootin, I'm not going to even consider a running back. CJ West is good. Restrepo, I feel like, he's a day 3 player and we're on day 3, but I don't see it with him at the NFL level enough to feel good about a pick in the 4th round even. So,
And I heard somebody say today I think it was on the with the first pick podcast, if I'm not mistaken.
mhm,
Um, and I was gonna look it up in case I heard it wrong. That Tootin had 9 career fumbles in college on like 300
mhm.
carries.
Yeah,
I knew
bad
he had some.
fumbling issue.
I knew he had some fumbles. I didn't know he had that many.
Yeah, it was pretty
And that's
bad.
300 carries. That's a season. You
Yeah.
know,
What
that's not a
so
good sign.
almost 10 out of 300, that's what 3% of his carries.
Yeah,
That's
that's
way too high
bad.
rate. But the rate at which he runs away from defenders, if he just holds
Right.
on to the ball, it would be cool.
Yep.
So Tootin is definitely one to watch. Shmael Mondon Jr., another Georgia guy that you kind of just like peripherally watch when you're watching all the other Georgia guys. I think he's okay. Maybe the discussion for off-ball linebacker could start here too, but again, you have 2 top line guys, and then you have developmental guys in Barnes, McCreary, Ball. Also, like you don't put a lot of stock into them, but your top 2 linebackers are good here. What about Miles Frazier? I know guard is not a quote unquote need, but next year it could be a need, and we could have 2 guys walk in Simpson and ABT. So, what are your thoughts on Frazier?
Look, I love the guy. I mean, tone setter, super physical, road grader, knocks the snot out of people, basically. But even with the AVT and Simpson thing about to hit free agency, after this season, I don't think you can take a guard this early. Now, I don't know what his measurements are. Like, if they feel he can be an emergency right tackle and a right guard, like add some value there, then I could see it.
Okay.
But otherwise, in this spot, I would say no. What I'm intrigued by. It's sort of the stars aligning with the top rated player being a tight end, because that's a spot I was going to say. Let's take a look at tight end with this 4th rounder,
Mm-hmm.
and you've got a tight end on the top of the list. Because as you said, I've said a few times that this class edge DT. Now you can't double up at all of them, but tight end, edge, DT, those are 3 spots in this class where I would double up because the talent is there to justify it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would look at tight end here, and Kobe Bryant. Like, if they were to take a corner, which I don't see happening, I like Kobe Bryant a lot out of Kansas. Really physical. He's not a big guy, but nobody told him that dude attacks and he hits like a linebacker. You'll see him separate receivers from the football. Good player. Jalen Reed, Penn State. I mean, if we're going to look at
Yes.
safeties as well, I was going to say tight end or safety in this spot because we haven't addressed either one and both our needs. Jalen Reed, I would be happy to take in this spot, or a tight end.
Yeah, as I was scrolling down, it kind of came down to Terrence Ferguson versus Jalen Reed for me. But just talking about Frazier's measurements real quick, 32 and 3/4 inch arm length. So not ideal for a tackle, but 82 and a 1/4 inch wingspan, which seems
That's
to
what I
be
was gonna
kind of
say. What's the wingspan?
middle of the pack
Right.
in terms of this offensive line group this past year. But 6'5" and 5'8". I mean, that's a very tall guard. So
Yeah.
the size, says he could possibly play tackle. And like they had him play tackle a little bit at the Senior Bowl, and they actually put him in over his teammate Emory Jones Jr. At right tackle on some of the practice reps. So I don't know. I mean, maybe if you, like you said, it's an emergency, get you out of a game at tackle type of pick. He could probably come in and compete with Chooks Okorafor to be the swing tackle, and that's okay. If not, you kick him into guard. But I do think the discussion comes down to Jalen Reed or Terrence Ferguson here, just looking at this board.
And Jonas Anchor as well. He's another good one.
Oh, yeah, Sanker as well. Yeah, huge Dom C guy as well. And anytime there's a Dom C guy on the board, you have to consider it.
Yeah, I think again with the depth at tight end, maybe I prioritize safety here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
I'm cool with Sanker or Reed. I think Reed probably wouldn't be here. Just trying to be realistic.
yeah,
So taking a guy who I think would be here, I'd lean Sanker. But again, it's not like I hate Sanker, but I have to just deal with it. I would definitely be
yeah,
okay with it here.
yeah. I would take Sanker or Reed. Sanker is the higher rated guy here.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and take him.
Okay. Versatile and instinctive safety, according to PFN, and God knows we need those because we haven't prioritized it enough. Terrence Ferguson goes a couple picks later. That sounds about right.
David Walker, who I think has a good chance to be a Jet.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the Central Arkansas edge, correct?
Yeah, that's the guy
Yeah.
Spielman loved.
Yep. And there goes Mickens in the 4th round, like I said. I don't think
and there
he's
goes Kobe Bryant to the Ravens.
the day 3
Noel
pick
Williams,
that everybody
underrated guy.
Mm-hmm. Malachi
Stutzman,
Moore,
I like.
man.
I don't know if Stutzman can cover, but Stutzman is a monster against the run.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of love for Stutzman. I don't think we need to entertain trades at this point. We're in day 3. We're just kind of do the lull you to sleep Joe Douglas and miss out on Spencer Rattler to trade down to go get freaking Jordan Travis. That still chaps my ass, man. All right. So we have a quarterback at the top of the board, one that the Jets did meet with. I would not love Quinn Ewers here, especially considering the other names on the board. Jake Breinenstuhl, tight end, I'm cool with. JJ Pegues, did we take a second defensive tackle?
We have not.
So we could take a JJ Pegues, get a DT/fullback. I'm cool with doubling up on wide receiver. Not sure I love Isaac Tesla, although his athletic profile is pretty nasty.
I like Tesla. I like him.
Yeah. Do you see a name here that's jumping out at you? Because this is kind of where, to me, I'm a little bit in the weeds and just basing it more off need than anything else.
Here's the thing with Quinn Ewers. The health is an issue.
Yes.
But even if you drafted him, we're in the 5th round.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you drafted him with the plan of, because I think about this a lot. It always surprises me that teams, every single year we see teams, and it seems more and more every year, we see teams lose their starting quarterback. And they go to these journeyman backups who were never any good, who will never be any good. And I always think, why don't teams start using more picks on guys with the plan? Like, you're our backup for the next 5 years. Like, Quinn Ewers undoubtedly has the tools to be a starter. We saw him beat Alabama in Alabama with Nick Saban.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this guy has won some huge games against top teams. The injuries have been an issue, but if you say we're going to take this guy and he's our backup for the next 5 years, 4 or 5 years, and that being, and so, you're hoping you're not going to ask him to play 17-game season. Look, the Jets are about to go, well, potentially, the Jets are about to go into a season with a backup quarterback who hasn't played a full season in about 9 years. Every time Tyrod Taylor gets on the field, he gets hurt. So if I mean, I'm not saying Ewers here, but I just, the more I think about that guy and the more I think about some of his bigger performances, it's like I would take him on a day 3 pick. We won't take him here.
Right.
Brian
Yeah, it's crazy.
Easterling,
Like there was a time where Quinn Ewers was the talk of the town. He had the
yeah,
mullet. He skipped his high school senior year
yep,
to go to Ohio State, and then he backed
yep.
up C.J. Stroud and transferred
So
over to Texas. So, like he was a very captivating prospect the entire
he
process.
was.
So for him to fall into the 5th round, I remember those
It's
way
the
too early
injuries, though.
mocks last
It's the
May.
injuries.
Yeah, but those way too early mocks last May, it was him and Carson Beck as
Yeah,
QB1 or off the board in those drafts, and it's like neither of those guys. One went back to school, and one is not. We're looking at him in the 5th round, so things change, and I think that's what people need to keep in mind when they say, "Oh, just go get your quarterback next year," because we
yeah.
have no idea what it's going to look like next year,
Yeah.
and if you
Arch,
think you're gonna,
anybody saying the Jets need to get Arch Manning, A, he's probably going to school all 4 years.
yes,
B, if he is on the board when the Jets are on the clock, they're going to pull the same thing they did with Eli. And they're going to be like, if you draft Arch, he is not coming there. So
right,
have a trade partner lined up. He's not coming to the Jets.
yeah.
Just Peyton did the same thing. Peyton didn't want to be a Jet. But
Yeah,
anyway, let's scroll
for
down a
those that
little
keep
bit.
saying Arch Manning, get ready to learn Lenora Sellers, which
Yeah.
not a bad consolation prize, but all right. Dylan Gabriel, another quarterback. Riley Leonard, another quarterback. Riley Mills, D tackle. Offensive line, I don't think we need. Antoine Powell Island is a good player. Anybody jumping out at you? Jalen Lane
Well,
is not
let's
bad.
check. Click on Cody Simon. I forget if he's in that. Yeah, 230. He's a little smaller than I thought. So if I say Cody Simon here, it's purely predictive. I mean, all this is supposed to be, but
Sure.
I don't know if you heard me talk about Spielman talking about him.
No.
Spielman absolutely loved this guy when he met him 2 years ago, prior to his final season at Ohio State. And he said he was so impressed by this kid off the field. On the field, he thought basically he was no good. He was like, I looked at this kid as a guy who might make the league as a day 3 UDFA, play special teams for a couple of years and be out of the league. That's what he thought of him as a player. But he said, as a kid, as a person, he said, I was so impressed by this kid. And of course, Spielman wasn't a GM at the time. He was working with with CBS, but probably anticipating he would have a job in some capacity in the league again. He said, I gave this kid my number and told him, when you're done with the league, call me. I want you to work for me. Like, you're that bright, you're that dedicated. That's what he thought of Cody Simon. And then he says, then he comes out this year and he's a completely different player. Instincts are much better. Now he's a mid-round pick. So Spielman thinks very highly of this kid. And the Jets do have, some need there at linebacker. As a predictive pick, knowing about Spielman's love for Cody Simon, let's go ahead and grab him here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just reading the bio about him, I picture someone similar to Quincy Williams, a guy who plays around the line of scrimmage, is super fast, isn't necessarily always violent downhill, but is savvy when he's coming downhill. I think those are qualities of Quincy Williams. Obviously, Quincy is a very big hitter, but yeah, man, you got to have those pipeline guys, and this is the round where I feel pretty good about
And if
taking.
Quincy's looking for a big payday,
Yeah,
which he is, and I don't blame him, you can't pay everybody. So I wonder how much longer he's with the Jets.
yeah, exactly. And you obviously just paid Sherwood $15 million a year, so that's going to be interesting how they handle the linebacker position, where we've had a lot of money tied up in the position.
Let's go ahead and look at tight ends, because we haven't taken one yet, have we?
We have not.
Yeah, we waited a little too long, to be honest.
Sure.
But, not necessarily.
Jackson Hawes?
Well,
or
Hawes,
do you like Gavin Bartholomew?
I would take Hawes later purely as a blocker.
Yeah.
Tell you what, man. Of those guys on the list, the guy I like most, Jalen Conyers.
Okay.
Jalen Conyers out of Texas Tech, versatile. He's not afraid to block. It's funny. I forget. I heard someone talking about him earlier, and the comp they get, because I'm terrible. I hate comps. I'm terrible with comps.
Sure.
And now I'm not going to even remember the name, but they had the exact comp for him that I had. It was the Oklahoma kid who went to the 49ers a couple years ago, who I really liked. Um, um, Someone will remember it. I can't recall his name, but nasty blocker, good hands, not afraid to go over the middle. I just think Conyers is a really good player. In fact, I think it was the draft dudes. I think it was they were talking about him, and I believe Kyle said Conyers is a guy you take if you don't get Warren in the first round and you want Warren light later on. And I was like, yes, like that. Conyers
Yeah.
is probably my favorite day 3 tight end. So I would take him in this spot and be really happy with that. I know they got him ranked 220. Maybe he goes later than that, but and Luke Lashley too. I mean, listen, these Iowa tight
Hmm.
ends, man.
Can't be
I'm not
mad
gonna
at it.
I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I thought George Kittle was gonna be as good as he is, but I did like him a lot coming out of Iowa, and I felt like
Uh-huh.
a lot of their guys they're just not exactly a prolific offense. That school just doesn't score points. And
Do
Kittle ended
you?
up being a monster, an all timer.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you remember a couple seasons ago? And I know Kittle wasn't there for this. The Iowa offense was struggling so bad that they just started calling them Iowa, and they took the O out because there's no offense. Like that's how bad it was.
I didn't, but that's great. It's so
Yeah.
true. There's just some places where it's like guys choose these schools, and it's like, do you not want to score points or be? But
Right.
listen, whatever their motives are, listen. Sometimes it's not just about football, but
Exactly. No,
I would
I like
happily
the
take. But
Conyers
listen,
pick. 260
Con,
with a +9 RAS. I mean, that's come on. I think
yeah,
that's what you need.
let's take him here. I think he could go earlier than wherever they're projecting him here
Yeah,
because they've got him at
I don't
220.
agree with like these day 3 rankings, and I understand, they're not an exact science, but Jackson Hawes to me being all the way down this low in this range, like I'm not, too familiar on Fedone or Conyers, but I would have had Jackson Dawes or Hawes, excuse me, in like the 4th or 5th round. So
Right.
I'm glad to see that we can get Conyers here. So we'll take him. Oh, Dylan Gabriel to the Eagles. I just saw that's an interesting one. I feel like Dylan Gabriel would be fine at the NFL level if he was literally just bigger. Like there's things
Yeah.
about him that I like, but the size is too much of an outlier that it's not the it's what was Russell Wilson, Baker Mayfield, all those discussions. Like this kid is just too skinny too. Like it's not just the pure height, it's his frame.
Let's go. Let's go all and see who the best player on the board is.
Absolutely. Rashard Smith,
That'd
your
be a good
guy.
play.
Aeneas Peebles, your guy. Ty
Ty
Robinson, my
Robinson.
guy, who I
I
heard
was gonna
was
say he's another one of mine, dude. And I
okay,
mean,
good. Yeah.
he's your run stuffer right
I
there.
heard him
Like,
comp to JFM the other day, and I remember when I mocked him in our first mock draft, which, like you mentioned at the top, was a long time ago. I feel way better about the pick now that I've learned more about him after drafting him, and you see the RAS score on the screen,
yeah, and
9.89.
I feel like he's better than an average run defender.
Yeah,
This says average
so
run defender.
yeah. I would definitely say he's more well-rounded in a positive way. So
Yeah,
I would be cool with Robinson, Peebles, Smith because I know that he's a wide receiver convert, right? Like he
yeah.
converted to running
I would
back.
avoid running backs though. I think if anything,
Yeah,
they'll add UDFA's at running back.
for sure.
Um,
Cam Jackson, Florida is another good player.
yep.
Holland Pierce, the local kid from Rutgers.
Jordan
Um,
James from Oregon, running
Yeah,
back.
so I mean, it's probably between Peebles, Robinson, for me at least. Tonka Hemingway.
Tonka Hemingway.
But
I cannot with him. I can't get it. I just think Sheldon Richardson because they're both DTs. They
oof.
both were 91, and they both got used as goal line running backs. So
Ah.
whenever I see him for that reason, not play style or anything like that, I think he's a good player.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tonka Hemingway. I always think Sheldon when I see him because he had a few rushing touchdowns.
I want to see him bull rush an offensive lineman and then somebody call him like the Tonka truck or something like
I'm
that.
sure. Yeah,
It's coming. Yep.
that should be his Twitter handle if it isn't
Dude,
already.
South Carolina's defensive line as a whole, man,
Dude,
they're special.
they got some good players. They
I'd
got
be
some
cool
good
with any
players.
of them. Jaw Joyner, there we go. Keep
John
going
Joyner's
down.
a nice player.
Dude, Jadon Blue, I know we talked about not. Dude, Vernon Broughton is down here? Whoa, hold on. I think that's a steal. Do you think he's a fringe 200 player? I feel like he's probably a
I
lot
think
higher.
I'd have him
PFF
higher
has
than
him in the
that.
third round, I think. So
Yeah.
definitely all over the place. Even Upton Stout is a good pick here if you want a
Yep.
developmental corner. So we kind of have the dealer's choice here. Let's see what we've already taken, what needs we
Hmm.
can address still. We've kind of hit all the
And how many picks do we have left?
3 picks,
Three
and
picks.
we've hit on all the essentials: wide receiver, tackle, both tackles, edge, safety, tight end, and linebacker. So we've really hit on all the
Let's
positions. We could
let's
double up
grab
here.
another DT here and take advantage of the value and get it. We
Hell
might
yeah.
get a starting level player.
Okay, you want to go Ty Robinson? Just
Go Robinson. Let's go
hell yeah.
Robinson.
I like
Pair him
that.
with Quinnen Williams
I like that a
and
lot.
Alexander.
I like that a lot. All right,
All
2
right.
more
So
picks. So the one is our natural selection in the 6th round, and then the extra from the Falcons. So
yep.
come away with what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There you go. We did the Rick Spielman. We found double-digit draft picks,
There you go.
and Peebles still on the board. But
All
obviously,
right.
we just took D tackle.
Yeah, we're not taking triple DTs. Although, like I said, I I wouldn't hate it. Like if the value is the value.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Let's sort this. We want to look at wide receivers.
yeah, I was gonna say I like
Nobody
Caden
really.
Prather. I'm trying to think which receiver did we draft? We went with a
We went
smaller
Matthew
guy.
Golden in the beginning, so
Yeah, I think Prather, good hands, big guy. At least of what I've seen of him.
okay.
I think the first play I saw of him that really jumped out at me was 2 years ago against Ohio State, and I think he made this leaping one-handed grab in the end zone in traffic and sort of popped to me.
Okay.
A lot of names on here I would take in the third round, to be honest.
I was gonna say these 2 names here, 276 and 279. Theo Weiss Jr. from Missouri and
Mhm.
Isaiah Nayer from
And
Nebraska.
Will
We've been
Shepard right below them.
and Will Shepard, yeah, the Colorado guys, like outside of Travis Hunter, all seem to be looking like fringe UDFA types. So
Yeah.
I'd be cool with adding a couple of those after the draft process as well. But Nayer, we've been on since he was at what was that, Texas?
Well, I liked him at
Or
Wyoming,
Alabama
and then he
or Wyoming,
transferred to
Wyoming.
Texas.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. And then Weiss, I mean, dude, I was watching Membu and Burden and Theo Weiss, man. Like I was falling in love with Theo Weiss. So to see him down here, I mean, I don't know if that's where he's being projected, but I would have had him up in like early day 3 type of projection. So I'm cool
Yeah,
with
I
that. What's his
mentioned him the other
measurables?
day
I don't
when
have his measurables.
Emery Hunt came on, and I was saying how I love that Mizzou tandem of Burden and Weiss.
So Weiss
Scroll
is
up a little bit there, though.
6'3", 200. So he would be like the opposite type of what we would be looking for. Not saying we need to reach for him here, but
Right.
you said you liked Caden Prather. What's up with him? Another 6'3" guy.
Again, big guy. Yeah, big guy, 6'3". Let's see, Shrine Bowl. Let's see what they say about him. They don't say anything about his hands. I thought he had really good hands. From what I've seen,
Okay.
again, yeah, the ability to adjust. Those are things I did notice. Let's see.
Because
If
I
we're
do
gonna go
think
with
that we can't have a bunch of just sub 6 foot wide receivers. We need to have at least somebody who gives us the frame of the Allen Lazard with actual hands that can catch the
yeah,
ball. I'm
yeah,
cool with Prather or Weiss. I know Weiss is probably much more of a reach, I guess, but we could also look at other positions too. We could double up,
and
see
is
what.
there a world now with the pay cut? Is there a world where Alan Lazard stays?
I think so. Yeah, I definitely think so.
I
And I
think at
thought
that
that
price, and I don't
I
hate
thought
it
that
either at
immediately.
3.5.
Yeah,
I don't mind having him around.
I immediately thought that he was going to stick around when that report came out, but then more, people came out and were like, well, that makes him also more easily tradable. And I've always been okay, we're going to wait for Rodgers to sign and then trade Lazard to whatever team he goes to, and that could still be the case. But yeah, I could definitely see a world where he's wide receiver 4 for less than $3 million or whatever it is. So
Yep.
yeah, I
Let's look at the
mean,
QBs since we haven't taken one yet.
okay,
This
perfect. Then
might
we can
this
come
might
back and
be
look at tight ends too. Your guy Brady Cook, wow, 361. I don't know if I agree with that either. Brosmer. I'm not a big fan of Curtis Rourke, although he is coming off the ACL. He's looking healthy now.
that's the thing with Rourke's injuries. Otherwise, I like him.
Yeah, yeah.
I liked him
And
at
those are really the
Ohio.
only three. They met with Cam Miller, right? Am
I
I
was gonna
correct?
say Cam Miller. The guy's a winner. That's it. That's what Aaron Glenn said, right? What do you want, Aaron Glenn? I want a winner. Well,
Yeah,
Cam Miller is a winner.
absolutely.
He can run. He throws an accurate ball. He's fearless. I wouldn't rule Cam Miller out in the 6th or 7th round for this team. Come real draft time.
Right. I'm looking at tight
Um,
ends here. These are like, I mean, in the 300s. I just don't agree with the rankings per se, but Maliki
yeah,
Matavo as
yep.
like your blocker type.
And
We
he's got
didn't
good
get,
hands too.
yeah, yeah, we didn't get Jackson Hawes, but I think blocker first and then, adequate hands as a versatile tight end. And then Dupree from Alabama. I haven't really done a ton of work on him, but I didn't hate him at the
Actually,
Senior Bowl.
if you move up a little bit, looking at the guys still available, I
Yeah.
would of the names there, I would go with Urasek, Ben Urasek out of Georgia. I don't know
Okay.
what the issue was, why they didn't throw him the football. I really thought I liked him at Stanford. He transferred to Georgia. I figured, okay, he'll step in and he'll have a ton of production because Brock Bowers is gone, and they
Mm-hmm.
just use him primarily as a blocker. But he could, like you see there, his sophomore season, 42 catches for 655 at Stanford. So you
Yeah.
would think he
That's
transferred to Georgia, you're going to get a bunch of targets, but they don't list his height. He's got to be 6'5". He's a big dude. I saw him take some absolute monster hits over the middle and hold on to the football. Um, I would say at worst average blocker for a tight end, probably above average, and good hands, good size. I would go with Urasek here.
I don't have his measurables either because he wasn't a combine invite, but this sentence to me gives me all the hope in a tight end in terms of projecting him at the next level. Shows a strong understanding of zone coverage and has good spatial awareness to find open windows for his quarterback. If you're
Yeah,
telling me that we're going to have a dual threat quarterback who likes to navigate and escape the pocket. All I want is a tight end who can sit down on a stick route and fade with the way that he's
yep,
scrambling. And if
yep,
Urasek can do that, I'm totally on board. Georgia's a good program, and obviously, if you have the production at a smaller school, just because you went to a bigger school and didn't have production, doesn't mean you're a bad player. It just means each school is completely different from the next. So I like you, Sarek. There, we doubled up on tight end effectively. And look, we got them in 162 and 207. I am very happy with the two that we got. It's not Tyler
yeah.
Warren. It's not Colson Loveland. It's not Mason Taylor, but I'm super happy with these guys, and I'm excited to actually learn more about them. But based on what you've told me, I mean, you can't argue
And
with it.
I'm curious. And listen, I obviously hope for the best, man. Maybe this Justin Fields thing will help Ruckert, and maybe hopefully some.
Yeah, 100%.
The hope is that the coaching will be better.
Yep.
So that's I hate it's hard to not give up on him. He's done so little, but
Mm-hmm.
the coaching was so bad that it's like maybe there's still something there. But let's I guess put it this way: historically, I doubt there are many tight ends who have done as little as Jeremy Ruckert has in their first few seasons, who then went on to be very good players. But it's
Yeah, I'm sure it'd be an outlier, but I mean, even if you get like middling production from him, like
yeah,
250 yards, I feel like that's always the safe projection for him. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, let's project 150 yards for Jeremy Ruckert this upcoming season. And it's like, okay, maybe Jeremy Ruckert will get 50 yards this season.
yeah,
And I feel like
yeah.
that's
It's
right with Jeremy Ruckert. So
yeah. If he could be to me, if he could be a 500-yard guy, I'd take it. But
yeah, for sure.
I don't think he has 500 yards through his first 3 years in the league.
No, absolutely not. He probably doesn't even have 250, to be honest. Like
Yeah.
it's probably that low. All right, last
So
pick of the draft. What were you gonna say?
last no, I was gonna say last pick I would go quarterback, but I always do like to scroll out of curiosity to see who's still there this late.
Nazir
Um,
Stackhouse. That's a cool one. I know we took two
I was
defensive
just gonna
tackles
say
already.
Nazir Stackhouse. I was gonna mention him. I feel like Craig Woodson, the safety from Cal, I also
I was
like.
just gonna say him too. Yeah.
Yeah, but Nazir Stackhouse, I could be wrong, but I could have sworn that at the start of like the 23 college season, like he was getting, or maybe the end of the 23 season, he was getting talked about like he was going to be a top 100 pick.
Yes.
And I could be completely out of my mind, but when I see him as low as he is, my brain just goes, what happened? Why is he
Yep.
there? If and maybe I'm just remembering wrong. Maybe I'm thinking of another player, but I am so certain that I heard people talking about him as this future first, second round pick. And
Yep.
now he's in UDFA territory at every mock I look at. Xavier Truss, another one. He's played tackle and guard at Georgia.
Okay.
It's like I said, there's a handful of schools: Georgia, Alabama, Michigan. Like, if I got to take a player blind, like I've never seen him play, if they went to that school, I'm going to take him and I'm going to be happy with their chances of succeeding. Ja'Cory Brooks, the Jets also had in, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I do believe you are right. Yeah, they did have Ja'Cory, and we could double up on wide receiver because we only did take Matthew Golden at the very top of the draft. You are right about Nazir Stackhouse, by the way. I have down here, I have a notebook that I keep just for spring games, and I didn't watch any spring games last year, but that's the start of my evaluation process. Is I do the two deep on our lads. I write the starters and then the backups immediately following, and then I take notes on the spring game. And Nazir Stackhouse's name came up so many times that I was like, who the hell is number 78 for Georgia?
Yeah.
Because I believe, like you said, it was a couple years ago when they still had
He was a
one
really
of
good
the
player.
Davis or Carters. And
Yeah.
I was like, wait, I'm here for this guy, but the 78 is popping off to me. So yeah,
That's
he's
what I
been a
mean.
name.
He came to me on film, and he
100%.
was always being raved about.
Yes.
And I just feel like this year, no one's talking about him.
No.
Literally, I've not heard one person talk about him. And I'm like, is this just? I know it's a deep class, but is he really the 47th best tackle in this? Like, maybe he is, I don't know. But it's just it's shocking to see him down there. But again, this I like to look again. It's a computer and it's going to be wrong about some stuff, but I do like Nick Martin, Oklahoma State, really good linebacker. Can cover, can hit. I'd be surprised if he doesn't get drafted, especially as important as it is to be able to cover nowadays. But this pick here, Dylan, I would take a quarterback. I'd take Brady Cook if he's still there, because I do want one. I would be shocked if Jordan Travis is back. His agent's the biggest idiot in the world.
Yes.
Like, when his agent comes out and says, my guy got hurt because the Jets screwed up, that to me says they've already talked and the Jets told them they don't want the kid. And it's all right, fine, then do that. If this kid is going to be on the roster and you went out and said that, you're a moron. Like, you don't do that.
You've committed career suicide at that point.
Yeah, in my mind, I don't know. Look, maybe he's back, but in my mind, he's not. Either Jordan Travis is not back next year or his agent is insane. So with that in mind, in this spot, I would take Brady Cook. Maybe the Jets take Cam Miller. Max Brosmer, I actually saw him to the Jets in a mock a few weeks back. Curtis Rourke, he's an older guy. He's got some injuries. Throws a really good ball, protects the football. Really elevated that Indiana program this year. So he's done some good things. What's his name? What is his name? KJ Jefferson. Is he on there anywhere?
No, I thought he went back to school yet again.
Did he?
I think so.
Because Emery mentioned him the other day when we
I just don't know how much eligibility these guys still have, and it's just crazy to me that KJ Jefferson, I feel like he was at like UCF and then Arkansas or something.
He was at Arkansas, then UCF, yeah.
Yeah, backwards. It's like, it's crazy. Yeah, I can't keep up with their eligibility, but I think he's still going. Funny that DJ Uyunglele is here, and the fall off for him, man. I mean, from Clemson to 420.
I never got it with him. I never watched him and thought, oh, really good player. Like,
yeah, his flashes at Clemson were a product of the scheme. I feel so. It's tough.
Yeah,
and then you got the Canadian guy who's been playing quarterback for 6 years is ranked above DJ. So yeah, I'm cool with Brady Cook here. My only thing on Cook, I didn't take a ton of notes on him, but I did notice that when they had their backup in when I was watching Membu and Burden, it wasn't it. And I'm not saying Brady Cook is it, but he made the offense function a lot better, and the offense could kind of rally around it. So I'm cool with Brady Cook here. Take a swing. I mean, I'm not mad. This is a pick that we've gained and acquired in the trade from Atlanta, so I'm 100% cool with this. Round out the Muji 10 here. We got Matthew Golden at 15 in a trade down. Josh Connerly Jr. at 42. JT Tumalau with our extra second round pick. Darius Alexander from Toledo in a huge steal. Jonas Sanker, the first pick on day 3 in the 4th round. Cody Simon, linebacker who Rick Spielman is in love with, and hopefully Jets fans will be too. We come back and get our first tight end, Jalen Conyers, in the 5th round. Ty Robinson, the JFM replacement, in round 6. Benjamin Urasic, the tight end from Georgia, and Brady Cook to round it out. Oh, and an extra 5th round pick next year. That'll be ammo to trade up for quarterback of the future that Jets fans want. So all in all,
Hey,
man,
hopefully it's Justin Fields. Hopefully
yeah,
they develop this kid. He's obviously had his struggles as a pro, but he still has a ton of talent. Our arguments were well documented between him and Zach. But I was sure around that time to send out some tweets like showing like I like this player. I just liked Zach more because Zach was the one who made the more consistent tight throws but he got to the pros and he couldn't hit the side of a barn. That was the thing with Zach. Everyone told me, he's going to get to the pros, and when he makes those throws, it's going to be interceptions. Well, no, they weren't, because he wasn't even close enough to be intercepted.
they
Like,
weren't
he
even
went
catchable passes. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I know, the pros from college to the pros, there's a big leap, but stuff like, and it's funny. I was talking to Emery about this yesterday, before we went live, or a couple days ago when he was on, and we were talking about it before we went live, and then Denzel Mims came up, and Emery Hunt was like, "How does a guy just forget how to play football?" Like, the tape at Baylor and Senior Bowl, like, told you he was worth taking where you took him.
Right.
And then I said, you look at what he did in year 1, didn't play most of the season because of an injury, and then when he gets on the field, he played really well. Like, he's making tough catches, high pointing the ball, jumping over defenders, pulling the ball down, beating defenders deep. He's doing all the things you saw him do in college. And then the new coaching staff comes in and they're like, "Oh, you're not going to play. Like, you're not going to play till you know every position on the field." And I don't know if he just was overthinking it, but then, like, one mistake after another, and then the drops, and it's like, did this kid just get in his own head? And like that, that was Emery's theory. Like, the way this coaching staff handled him destroyed his confidence.
Absolutely.
And it derailed his career. And
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting argument, an interesting conversation, because I know I overlook it some, not overlook it, but I'm like, do I not properly account for what doing that to a guy's confidence really does? I think it's
we can
because
blame him, but
the mentality is like, suck it up, don't want to hear it. Like, life's hard, move on. Like, this is the NFL.
You're making millions, yeah.
But it doesn't mean he's not a person, and it doesn't mean that, like, the psychological aspect doesn't creep in. It doesn't creep in for me because I'm watching from my television. I'm just like, hey, man, stop doing that.
Right.
Well, yeah, it's easy for me to say. Here's a guy that, who knows what he's gone through a practice all week, and not just Denzel Mims. Any player who doesn't make it, I don't know. I want, like, Denzel Mims is a guy. There's a few guys I wonder, like, if they had landed in a different spot where maybe they weren't expected so much early on and they were sort of brought along a different way. Because, I don't know, man. That guy, his rookie year, even if you can say, well, like, oh, he was a rookie and teams didn't know, like, you can't. A guy like Denzel Mims shouldn't be completely useless and out of the league.
Right.
At worst, he should be like your 4th or 5th receiver with certain packages. Like, okay, fine.
There's
But
a skill
for him
set
to be
to
just,
use, yeah.
Yeah, for him to just be out of the NFL is like, I don't know. I feel like, and it goes for any player, like development and getting it right. Justin Fields, like, he's now on his 3rd team with all that talent. Him and Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson's a backup. Justin Fields is a starter for one of the worst teams in the NFL, his 3rd team. And it's like, this is, coaches got to get it right. And I hope they get it right with Fields. I don't think the Jets obviously don't get it right with most guys.
There's no way to, like, quantify it, but, like, yeah, you would like to see the guys that don't make it in the league, like, what percentage was on that player specifically, what percentage was on the coaching and the scheme and the just surrounding environmental pieces. And that's why I like the draft dude segments that they do about the rookie quarterbacks and the environments that they're entering, because it does shed a light that things aren't going to be all sunshine and rainbows for every rookie quarterback that comes into the league. So it is interesting to see how these guys pan out and what necessarily does lead to their downfall. Because with Mims specifically, I do think a lot of it was mental, and that the the coaching staff didn't make it easy for him. And I'm not saying they have to make it easy, but that's part of your job, is to make it easier for players to acclimate,
Transition.
to the NFL and, become a true NFL player. I know you traded down for him, but he was a second-round pick. So you definitely got to do the best you can with all your players and try to make it work. We have one quick question here from Double A. Or comment, excuse me. What's going on, fellas? Looking forward to draft night. Got a good feeling about this season. Yeah, man. I'm excited for the draft. We're a week away tomorrow. So 8 days.
A week tomorrow, 8 days from today.
That's going to be exciting. I don't know. We'll talk off air about what our exact plans are, but I know we always do something for the draft, so that'll be fun. So come on back.
We hadn't. I think I said it on the air the other day. I'm going to try to do every pick again. I'm going to try to do. I did it last year. It's, with the time difference, is a little tricky. I'd forgotten about that it like day 3 starts at like, I don't know, or no, it starts at like 5-6 p.m. here. But then it runs through to it's day 1 that's tough.
Because you're starting at 2 a.m. or whatever it is, and then you're going through until the morning.
Yeah. I actually I think I said on the air a couple years ago, I fell asleep during the Becton pick, or like minutes before the Becton pick.
Oh, okay.
Just by some miracle, I woke up like 2 or 3 picks later. Like, if I would have slept through the first round, there would have been no article on JetNation, and like,
right.
I just happened
for
to wake
Joe
up.
Douglas's
Oh my God,
first draft pick too. Like,
yeah, and he went to San Diego, right?
San Diego.
Didn't Becton sign with the Chargers as a free agent?
Oh, now, yeah. I was like, I thought you were talking about school. I was like, no, he went to Louisville. Yeah, I think that's where he is. Yes, he's in L.A. now. I can't keep forgetting you get San Diego. That's so funny.
Which is interesting. Oh yeah. which is interesting. Harbaugh is such an O-line guy. Like, so much emphasis on the O-line. And Becton he wasn't great this year, but he was good. He got himself a Super Bowl ring.
He's playing guard because they have Slater and Joe Alt. So that he's playing guard. So, I mean, I feel like that's kind of the role he's worked himself into, and good for him. I mean, you go win a ring, and now you get the good payday, and you get that. At least I think he's projected to be the starter. I don't think they brought in a competition guy for him. So, yeah, I mean, good for him. That's what you need.
We'll see. He turned things around. I won't even get into that. Yeah. Somebody said something stupid earlier. I have to stop starting conversations about dumb things that other people say.
Yeah. I'm sure it was on Twitter or somewhere like that, where the takes are always flowing.
Yeah, exactly. Red hot takes all over the place. So that wraps it up, folks. That's our joint mock. I think maybe we'll do another one a day or two before the draft. But like I said, we don't do 25 a year. I forget what it was the other day. It was like mock 8.0. That's a little much to me. That's a little much. I don't know, when you get to the point where you've taken every player in the draft, you kind of
everyone's a first round pick in those mocks. Yep.
Yes, exactly. All right, that'll wrap this one up. We'll catch you. We'll probably be on a couple times this week, and definitely a day or two before the draft, and then I'll be here for the whole draft. Dylan will be here for as much of that as he wants to be.
Yep.
And we will catch you then. Have a good one, Jets fans. All right.